He was a storytelling ploy, and now he is my son. I almost lost him at an event, and I didn't tell my boss this. Tim, I'm so sorry. He's still here, so I didn't tell you. And I had put him down during dinner and awards at an event, and I turn around, and because it was outside in a tent, I turn around, and he's gone. And I start panicking. I'm like, oh, God. I'm not going to lie. I did shed a very, very small tear. Because I did think I was going to lose my job for a second. I'm like, if I don't come back with the alien, there's no point in me keeping my job.
Welcome to another edition of Cold Ones with Cold Bore. As always, I'm Lee. We're having some fun today. We got poker tonight. I've got two special guests today for this episode. We're going to learn a little bit about marketing and some different things. So I want to introduce Bella with Midnight Marketing, if you want to say hi.
Hello.
And then who is our friend here who is drinking muscle milk to try to gain some pounds?
Bless him. This is my son. This is Schmeez the Alien. He has teeny tiny little muscles, and I don't want him drinking on the show today. So I figured muscle milk was the best thing we could find for him in the fridge.
Yeah, we definitely want to make sure that he's of age. Don't want to get in any trouble, and so he looks like he could use some protein.
Oh my God, I'm pretty sure he's aged. If you see all the little wrinkles there, I think he's got some experience under his belt, more or less.
I don't know how old he is in alien years.
I think it's like dog years. I think there's a specific formula. It's like for every human year, there's maybe like 20 or 30 alien years you got to add to that. So he's probably well into his 80s or 90s by now.
I mean, the bald head kind of gives it away too.
Just a little. It's a fashion statement. It's a fashion choice.
So for anybody who is not familiar with what we do on Cold Ones, this is more of a kind of get to know you, kind of networking, kind of more human side of kind of the industry. And so we bring on a lot of different guests. Bella's in town for a few weeks. We're going to talk a little bit about Midnight, how y'all got kind of started, what your role is. So let's kind of start it out. Like we met Bella last year at the Gatsby in Houston. She was dancing with an alien, which seemed a little bit bizarre at the time. And then I got to kind of understand the whole background. So I guess let's knock out the alien in the room. How did Schmeez come about?
Oh, that's one of my favorite questions, actually. So last year, we were doing a series of golf games, a series of events in oil and gas. And, we're a marketing team. We think that great marketing comes from great storytelling. And we're like, you know what? We don't even have a story other than just marketing. And the fact that it's like midnight, we're space-themed, space-related. So what are we going to do? How are we going to go about it? So we sat down with the events team, and someone brought up the idea of having an alien that comes down from space just for this one event. And so we were looking online. I think we found this guy at a Halloween prop store for maybe $100. And we're like, you know what? He looks scary enough. Let's do it. 2 foot tall, made out of latex. Great. And by the way, this guy has no back. So if you're watching this is what the backside of him looks like. It's just felt, which is quite funny. So we gave him a name, which was just was horrendous. I think we had options like Barbara, Schmeez, but Schmeez ended up being the ideal winner. And he came with us to the golf game. He stuck so well, and people just started asking about him. And then I would go out to other networking events. People would say, "Oh yeah, I know you." You'd expect them to say, "Yeah, you're Bella with Midnight." No. You're Bella, the one with the alien. I'm like, yeah. That's me.
Yeah. So I should have said this earlier. This is being an informal show. We like to have a cocktail and a cold one, if you will. Nice play on words with Cold War. So, of course, I'm drinking a cold beer today, and Bella is having a ranch water.
I've become obsessed with ranch water since I got here.
It's a good thing that we're friends with the Fletcher guys and Justin Overstreet over at Wildcat.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Because it tastes delicious.
There's a plug for you. Maybe I'll get that sponsorship one day.
Oh.
So, okay. So, obviously, Schmeez is a celebrity of sorts. She's crossed the Canadian border probably certainly more times than I have. And I work for a Canadian company. So does he have a passport yet?
No, I'm working on it. I have been asked so many times by all the different airlines that we've flown now if he has a passport, if he's allowed into the country, if he gets his own seat. Half the time he just goes in the overhead bin, which I feel so sorry for all the people that aren't expecting it when they get off the plane and, you open the overhead. Very first time we did that, I had this 6 foot tall guy sitting in the aisle right next to me. So he gets up, opens it up, and then this guy, I didn't put him in properly, springs out at him. I've never felt so bad, and I've also never heard a 6 foot tall man scream that loudly. And I felt so terrible. But no passport, no papers. He's an alien through and through.
There we go. Okay. Well, all right. So, okay, Bella, talk about your experiences. Like, how did you? Because you're obviously in marketing. You go to all the events, which I think is very unique. We're going to touch on that here in a little bit. But how did you get into, how did you find Midnight? How did you decide that, okay, this is what I want to do?
Good question. So I hadn't really worked in any sort of marketing or in energy prior to this at all. And so I was living in Ontario. I'm from Montreal, but I was living in Ontario for a brief stint doing door-to-door sales and telecommunications, selling TV, home phone, and internet, literally knocking on doors.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah, minus 20 degree weather in the heat as well, 20 degrees being Celsius. So very cold. I don't even know what the very cold enough to have icicles hanging out of your nose. And so at one point I had done enough of that and I wanted to go back to Montreal. So I head back to Montreal. I'm like, you know what? I love the downtown area. I'm going to look for a job there. And then I see there's a position for office coordinator at this company, Midnight Marketing. They had a pretty cool website. So I'm like, oh, you know what? Click. Let's get myself an interview. So I do the first round of interviews and then I do another round of interviews and then I get to meet the CEO, Tim. And he shook my hand and apparently I have a really good handshake. If you know, you know. And I said, yeah, I did door to door. And I think that really stuck out for him because I came in as office coordinator and a few months later, he's like, listen, I want to build out my sales department, my BD team. I think you'd be a great fit for it. You love to talk. I'm like, that's not false. I do love to talk, which is why I'm here. And he's like, so let's just go. Let's just go from there. You're going to learn all about energy and oil and gas. You're going to learn all about BD. We're just going to take it from here. We're going to, very cheesy, we're going to take it to the moon. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And there you go. And so I've been doing that since February of 2023 now.
Okay, so a couple years, or going on a couple years, I guess. Tell us a little bit about Midnight, because I think you don't see a lot of marketing teams that are at a frac conference. So that's very unique, and I think y'all's approach is pretty unique. So give us, quick little blip about what y'all do and how y'all do it.
Yeah, so we're a 4-year-old marketing company. We specialize in branding, web, and marketing. We used to slap digital at the beginning of that, but we've gone from not only just touching on digital marketing, but also like the physical, real life, in-person marketing. So like the fracking conferences, all of the trade shows and conferences that people in energy are going to be at, we want to be there too.
Yep. No, I mean, that's great. If y'all are focusing on this market and this industry, being at those and learning beyond just what one of your customers might explain that they do, right? Because you're actually seeing it. You're going to the conference. You're getting to talk to people and building out that network. Has to make y'all's life a little bit easier when you're talking to prospective clients or building out a program for an existing.
100%. And I mean, going to these events has been massive for us. There's been 2 events where we've had to fight for our booth space there. And there have been events where people will be like, yeah, no problem. You guys can get a booth, but why do you want to be here? Mm-hmm. Like, we have nothing to do with marketing. And we're like, we know that's exactly why, because we've been doing these events for a year now. And next year we're building out the 2025 list. And there's no other marketing team that has a booth there. And what's great about that is that not only are our clients the people that are walking the event, but they're also the people that have booths there. So we just get the double whammy, which is great for us.
Yeah. And they're fun to go to. I mean, the networking thing is huge. Like coming, my background, I came from a large, oil and gas service company. And then obviously now with Cold Bore, going to events was not necessarily something that they pushed. It wasn't, I probably, in the almost 10 years I was there, I think I probably went to 3. Yeah. And now a portion of that was I was in operations, but even in sales, it was never something that was like, hey, this conference is going on. Are you going? You should go. And then, so I never saw the value. And then when I started going to all these events, and sometimes you get a little event saturated where there's almost something every other week.
Yeah.
which makes life difficult to be able to do because we do have jobs. But being able to interface with just different people, different customers, or different companies, and building out and rounding out that network, you really get to understand how large and small this industry actually is.
100%. I mean, the amount of events that you go to just increases your chance of meeting up with people that you've never met before, people that you've known for a little while, current clients, past clients, future clients. I mean, it's just, I feel like it's endless. And I know people who say they're like, no, we don't want to do events. We don't think that there's any value in trade shows and whatnot. I've made so many friends. Like, that's one of the things that I love the most about my job. Obviously yapping, we love that, but making friends out of all of this too is just an added plus. Because by becoming friends with them, seeing them in person, it just makes them like bridging the gap between not knowing you and the trust, like trusting them enough to want to provide services for them. It makes it so much easier.
Yeah, and this industry is really heavy on the relationships too, and that's one thing, you know, that we have really embraced. Is obviously as a company we do some different things on the marketing side or you know, networking, like, you know, the poker games, the crawfish, stuff like that. And it's primarily just to get people talking, to networking and making introductions and build those relationships, because that's, you know, people move between companies all the time. And so it's the relationships that maintain. And so being able to learn something new, and especially as this industry evolves, I mean, the technology, the embrace of technology here in the last 5 years has been absolutely unreal.
So I have a question for you then. Sorry, I'm turning the tables around here.
Go for it.
What do you feel has been the value out of going to conferences versus, so that you have that conference networking and then you have something like a poker night where you're also networking, but it's not established that it's like, okay, I'm leaving with a card, I'm here to talk business. It's really just sitting down, you're drinking and you're playing poker.
That's been one of the things that we said from the get-go, that this was the poker nights or anything that we do here at this house is a non-sales event, meaning we want all our service friends to come, but this is not an opportunity to sell. This is an opportunity to sell yourself and network and build a relationship. And, you know, inevitably, you know, because we want the operators to be comfortable here. We don't want them to be, you know, somebody to be pushy or, oh man, you work for so-and-so, because it's not fair to them. And so we've really, you know, respected that, and we've pushed that. And I tell that to basically every service company that comes, this is an opportunity to network. And there's been sales that have occurred because of poker. Mm-hmm. You know, other companies, you know, us, whatever, but they ask, like, okay, inevitably the conversation comes around to, well, what do y'all do? And then they tell them, and they're like, oh man, I need to know more about that. And what the guys from the service company and girls, what they tell them is, well, here's my card. Let's catch up next week, or let's catch up tomorrow. And that frames it in a different manner. They're not getting a hard sell. They're not anything else. You're just creating opportunities and friendships. And that's the thing, you know, like I had Xavier on back before the crawfish. And that's what me and him talked a lot about, was just the fact that, you know, you're taking it from a transactional to an actual relationship. And so when, you know, people come, it's, you know, and you have a lot of the same players that show up, which is great. It's like, hey man, how's the family? How's work? How's the dog? Like, you know, how's your kids' football? Like, blah, 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 blah. And now you're getting this, like, where people see each other out at events, like, oh man, hey, what's up, dude? Or they're texting to see if they're going to an event. Mm-hmm. And so you're building kind of like this great friendship network where inevitably, like, you know, obviously in sales, that's your job. And part of it though is you're creating the network where you get those phone calls. And it may not be the person you meet here. They may be talking to another buddy and be like, oh man, yeah, you need to talk to them. They're great. And, you know, that's worked with y'all. Like, you know, I've had friends that have said, hey, who do y'all use for marketing? Well, we're internal. But if you need somebody, you know, reach out to Bella at midnight.
Yeah. I mean, I think if there's one person externally outside of the midnight team that knows our products and what we do almost as good as we do, is you at this point. I mean, I know, I think at every event that we go to, I know that you obviously, you know everyone and their mother, which I find is really cool. So if ever I'm talking with you at an event, you'll be like, yeah, I'll be right back. You go see someone, I turn around and you've disappeared. Where did you go? 10 minutes later, you're across the hall. You're like, Bella, come here. And you introduce me to somebody. You're like, okay, these guys do XYZ. They want to talk about marketing. I'll be right back. Turn around, you're gone. You're like the Flash. Another 10 minutes later, down the hall, and it's just it, and it repeats. So
well, and that's a great thing is I love making introductions, and this industry is built on that. Like I keep coming back to that, but it's also a lot of fun. I mean, sometimes you go to an event, whether it's a conference or something else, and there's an air of like pushiness, I guess. And like the Daylight Energy events are fantastic because they like hammer that point home. This is not the place to be pushy. Like this is, a chance to learn, connect, whatever. And they kind of really hold that standard. And that's the same belief we have. And so, because if you get to that point where people come and they feel like they're being sold to or pushed, then, you have less people wanting to come and network.
100%.
So, but yeah, the conferences are great. I know y'all are going to ATCE next week in New Orleans.
Yeah, I've never been.
That's man, I've been to New Orleans, but I've not been to New Orleans for an oil and gas event. So I can only imagine how exciting that will be, I guess.
Oof. I mean, listen, I'm ready already. There's the schedule during the day. You have to be at the event from like 7 a.m. until like 6 p.m. maybe 6 p.m., which is it's a long day, but you're staying behind a booth and you're chatting. But I made friends with this guy the other day, and he's like, "Oh, you're going to New Orleans? Give me your phone." Pass over my phone. 10 minutes later, he's mapped out the entire area for me. Like, hey, you need to go eat here. You need to go see this, so on and so forth. I'm like, I'm there for 4 days. I don't think I have that much time. It's like, you're going to make time because you're going to want to be here. And I'm like, okay, I'm excited.
Yeah, I was hoping I'm not going to be able to make that one. I had some stuff come up. So I was really hoping to get out there, but maybe next year.
Sucks.
Yeah. I just have to stick around for the conferences in Houston this year, I guess.
That's true.
So,
That's true. But no, there are a lot of really good conferences in Houston. I feel like they're more at the beginning of the year, beginning to mid year.
They stack up. Like you've got, February is a pretty busy month generally. And it's weird because it's the shortest month, but I think there's 2 conferences in February, and then I think there's a little bit of a gap, and then they pick back up like in April. So I think you have like a 1 month gap because spring break, nobody's going to schedule anything on spring break.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are always great to attend. We do generally one big booth a year, but always attend them because attendance is key. Like just being present, being out there and being visible is a huge thing. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, like we've met a lot of great people, not just like in my segment of oil and gas, but guys, like the next gen guys, Brian Cook and all those guys, they're generally offshore guys. Mm-hmm. Typically would not have run into them had it not been for actually us hosting poker. And so it kind of goes beyond just, the segment that you may play in all the time. And just, kind of continuing to build that out. So
God bless poker.
I know, right? So
I still haven't learned how to play, unfortunately.
Somebody could take your money.
I'll listen. I'll stand behind you. Just say, yeah, that looks like a good card to play.
I usually just try to just take Xavier's money. So
that's fair.
I might have to send this clip to him because he'll get mad.
Are you going to take his money tonight as well?
That's the plan. He's getting a little cocky these days, but we'll see.
I mean, I'm biased. I'd love for you to win, but I'd also like for him to win too. So I'll put my money on both of you guys. Just don't tell him that.
Yeah, no, we'll leave that one out. So you're in town. Doing a lot of interaction with your customers, prospective customers and stuff. How is all that going? Like, what is the typical, like when you walk in and do y'all take a interview with them and assess their needs, their current status? Like, how does that work?
I think it's like we try to be as neutral as possible. So especially when we're going in to chat with clients, primarily with the people that we're currently working with, it's really just to assess like, okay, how is it going with the current like marketing coordinator that you have on board? What do they have in the pipeline for you? And then we start kind of like bouncing ideas off of them. Just trying to like pull out a little bit more than what you usually would on a call. Cause a good portion of our team is out in Montreal right now. So we don't necessarily have the face-to-face meetings. So we like to take that opportunity to really like, okay, let's go out for a drink, let's go out for coffee, and you talk like your old friends, kind of like with what we're doing right now. It's like it's not meant to be business. It's just how you doing, what's new with you, what trends are you seeing that you want to follow up on, and let's make that happen together kind of thing. So making sure that it's like, hey, I know that you're giving us your business every month, but we want to let you know, hey, we really appreciate you. So we'll go out to their facility, or we'll go out to their workshops or wherever they are. Just have a good time.
Yeah. So I know you're very active on LinkedIn, and that's, if used properly, it's actually absolutely powerful tool. I was not very active on LinkedIn until probably 1920-ish, especially during COVID, because and again, going from a big company to a smaller company, my LinkedIn was basically our internal CRM. If I needed to go and talk to a customer, I'd pick up, look in the CRM, who calls on them, who's in there a lot. Hey, Joe, can you get me in to go see them? Mm-hmm. Yeah, come on, you can come with me. And so LinkedIn was I've had one for years, but I was never really truly that active on it. COVID changed a lot. I was with a smaller company. Everybody was locked down. There was a lot of communication that came through LinkedIn, and I made a lot of, connections and did presentations via, just LinkedIn messaging. It's a very powerful tool. Mm-hmm. So what have you found in LinkedIn that you think is just insanely useful, or, how do you use it? Because you are very active. You're always posting videos. You're always posting content, and that's great. And so the impressions matter, the connections matter, all that. Mm-hmm. But what do you what's something that you do that you maybe unique, or something that you found that just really works on LinkedIn for you?
Oof. I've been A/B testing my own content for ages, since day one, and I've learned the long way and the hard way that the content that works the best right now is always video content. So whether that's short form to some people could be 30 seconds. Short form could also be 2 minutes. I don't know, but even just small podcast clips or whatever that is, explaining your products and services, literally just sitting down at a table and explaining what you guys do and how you do it. I feel like that performs really, really well. And especially going back to COVID, I mean, COVID was such a difficult and trying time for a lot of people. And there are a lot of mixed emotions about it as well. But that's where we started. We started in COVID. And so obviously it's not like you can go out and physically see your customers or your clients or your prospects or whatever that is. And so everyone is chronically online. So how else to build that bridge between, I have no idea who you are, but I need your services, and I trust you enough to want to talk to you constantly and give you my services, than by being online where everyone else is as well. And so again, a lot of that comes from the videos, because you're not necessarily sitting down in front of someone anymore and talking. And yeah, okay, a good article or two, or a text will perform well from time to time, but it's the video that does really well.
Yeah, we found that too. The shorts, the snippets, because most people are scrolling through and it catches their eye. They want to kind of see, they might recognize you, just kind of hear something that you're saying. Because we're doing a podcast right now. There are an absolute ton of podcasts out there. Mm-hmm. And so then it's, okay, when do people have the opportunity to sit down and actually listen? And the technical ones are always a little bit difficult, especially for us, just because of SmartPad and Cold Bore, to do, long form videos where you're really grinding into the minutia of data. So we've found the short form stuff is very good to just kind of hit, and people get an interest and they see what's going on, and they kind of maybe dial in for more. Even with our podcast, a lot of the stuff that we post on LinkedIn are, it might be a link to the full podcast, but they're the shorts.
Yeah.
And they do really well, and that's the other, is getting the right people, right, to come on and just, come in and be goofy for however long.
And I think that's the key word there, is that you just kind of have to be goofy. You just kind of have to put yourself out there, because no one else is going to do it. And so if you're going to make fun of yourself, may as well do it to yourself, and do it to a network of people that are going to, that either already know you or want to know who you are.
Yep.
But the thing is that you have to be consistent with that. So if you're goofy online, you have to keep being goofy in person. So if that's not you, then you have to start reevaluating.
Yeah, you have to be the authentic self, whether it's real life or online, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you look at and that's the great thing about how this industry is continuing to evolve, is a lot of the video content and people that are going on podcasts and talking probably would have been frowned upon even 5-6 years ago. We weren't always the most open industry about what we do, and Chuck Yates over at Digital Wildcatters has always been driving this point home. He's like, guys and girls, like when it comes to like, the negative side of oil and gas where people try to like bash it, like our old approach was, shut up, you're an idiot. Like go hug a tree, jackass, whatever. Right. And it's be like, don't have that kind of rough edge approach. Just be like, well, what don't you understand? And he's done a very good job. He always kind of preaches that. Now Chuck can be rough around the edges, but that's what he's kind of always done. And you've seen kind of that mentality start to kind of trickle forth because people, it's human nature. People are typically fearful or distrustful of what they don't understand. 100%. And so the more education we can do, like I literally took screenshots of on Fox News the other day because fracking is in the news because of presidential election. Yeah. And some hard stances that were taken, like in 20, like I'm banning fracking, whatever. And so I always cringe when I see news stations when they talk about fracking because like they literally just have they have a picture of a drilling rig with the wellbore going down. They're like, and the fluid comes from here. And it's terrible. Like the graphics are terrible. The explanations are horrible. They don't bring in an expert. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like people have zero clue what goes on a frac site. They
went to Wikipedia. They took the first 3 lines. They're like, I'm an expert now.
They looked at it and he had some, back in, I forgot even when, I didn't want to really give it the oxygen, but some idiot video of, how evil fracking was. Turned out it was, for the most part BS. And that's what people got. Like when I got into the industry, like I was very new to oil and gas. I had worked in commercial real estate appraisal before I jumped into this industry, and I was a field engineer. And even my parents, because they were not oil and gas people. They didn't know. My dad was an airline pilot. My mom was a teacher. They didn't understand like what I was doing, and they just saw what they saw in the news. And we were at something, and their friends were like, "Oh my God, don't you like cause earthquakes and poison the water?" I'm like, "Oh, here we go."
Okay.
And I was like, "Oh no, we don't do that." I'm not Dr. Evil with a weather machine or earthquake machine.
You very well could be with the setup that you have here.
That would be cool, though. I wouldn't oppose having that that power. But yeah, so I mean, it's the education part of it is key, and that's what you're seeing a lot. Going back to the LinkedIn. Is you're seeing more and more stuff that's educating, like the general population of why this is important. Like cutting out oil and gas would be detrimental to our way of life.
100%. I feel like people nowadays are so much more open. Already the industry in itself is quite tight knit, and you can really see that when you do go to these events and these conferences because everyone seems to know everybody, even if you've been around for 30 years or you've been around for 3 months. Everyone just seems to know each other. But that being said, everyone is also so willing to educate you if you're just open and honest about it, which is exactly where I was when I first started. I'm like, guys, I don't know what I'm doing. Help. And people were like, okay, you need to read this article. You need to do this course. You need to watch these people. And just ask questions.
Yep.
And people are they're so nice about it too. And that's why I have the knowledge that I have now. I had posted something on LinkedIn where I had done this introduction to oil and gas drilling. And I posted that I had completed the course. I got so much love and support from that one post. And I'm like, it's a picture of my screen with a thumbs up. That's all that it was. And then we now have a running joke at work that's what you need to do to get engagements and impressions. It's a good old thumbs up. Yep. But people were reaching out in my DMs on LinkedIn afterwards, and they're like, "Yeah, you need to be reading this. This is a great course." I'm really like, someone said they're proud of me for like making the effort to learn. I'm like, thank you so much. I'm so touched.
And like us, how we've kind of approached. Marketing was more from an educational standpoint. Like early on when I first started, once you could get back out in the wild after COVID, I'd be like, hey, I'm with Cold Bore, and they're like, what is that? And then you have to go through and explain what you are. Mm-hmm. And I had people thinking we were a gun manufacturer. We were, it ran the gamut because bore, gun bore, whatever, rifle bore. And so it was this kind of like, I was always having to go and explain. I might have to give like the 30-second elevator pitch like 50 times at a conference. And this is how you know, like, your, marketing and what you're doing is taking hold, because now that's very rare. People are like, oh yeah, you're cold war. Yeah. We know about y'all. Like, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I remember the first conference I was at where I didn't have to explain everything. I was like calling like my boss. I was like, man, we're doing something right.
How long did that take you guys? Like, from the second that you guys really stepped in, you're like, okay, we need to do good marketing. We need to get the ball rolling to now.
So it's hard for me to answer that, because my first week was like March 2nd of 20. And that was when COVID was like hammering Houston. Like, we got ran out of a office building downtown by their safety department, because like they're brought in hand sanitizers and masks and everything else. And like, y'all got to go like out. And so like, that was my first week on the job. So I'd literally only gone into like 2 offices before everything was locked down. And I was the only U.S. employee. Like, we had field guys, but I was the only U.S. employee. So like, Shane, my boss, he had to haul butt and get him to the airport so he could hop a flight back to Canada before they shut the border down. And he was like, okay, here you go. Here's a laptop. And so we lived on Zoom and, everything else. And so the first conference out was really, I think, Doug, Fort Worth, which was, that was kind of wild. There's a lot of oil and gas people cooped up for quite a long time. Then you kind of release them out and everybody went a little nuts. Really, it was a good conference. It was well attended. But definitely having to, explain a lot of stuff. And Daphne has been fantastic on the marketing side as far as putting out content with her team, Milena. And we've been really kind of trying to do that. But it probably took, it's hard to assess with COVID, but it probably took 2 years before I could actually say, yeah, people are knowing who we are. And that was because, we had quite a few good things that had happened during that time, but it was, people were finally starting to understand and see, kind of, and seeing it from LinkedIn or YouTube videos and stuff like that. Like, we try to do everything to try to educate. But yeah, so now it's definitely a lot better. We were at, I was at the Offshore Technology Conference, OTC, at Brian Cook's event where y'all were there. And an offshore guy came up and, we were chatting. And as soon as I heard cold bore, he was like, oh yeah, what y'all are doing is awesome, man. Like, I've been kind of following y'all. And I was like, wow, really? That's not really a segment that we've ever really focused on, but that's awesome.
That's wild.
So it's, it's starting to take hold even out of just the completion space. And yeah, it makes it a lot easier not having to do that elevator pitch, the 30-second summary every time you shake somebody's hand.
Well, that's what I love about posting so many videos on LinkedIn now, is just like, they've likely already watched a video about what you guys do or who you are, even if it's like a stupid post that makes absolutely no sense with what you guys are doing, but they're like, oh yeah, no, I've definitely seen you. And now, instead of like, even if you have like physical products that you can't bring with you to conferences, it's like, if your website is almost acting for you like a sales rep, and then your videos are also acting as like your demo products. Because it's like, imagine it's like you have a trucking company. You're not going to be bringing this massive truck around with you everywhere. So you're like, okay, let me show you what we can do. And you just have all these videos going on. They're like, oh, okay, this is sick. This is great work. And then that just opens up the conversations to, okay, well, let's get a live demo going, or let's have a call. It just opens up so many doors. And especially since, LinkedIn is incredibly corporate and very business structured. And just the fact that people are opening it up a bit more to not just the educational content, but like the fun and exciting content that also showcases your culture and who you are on the inside. Because yes, ultimately you're getting the products and the services out of it, but you're also paying for the how can I say this, for like the relatability, the reliability, the trust that you have with this one specific person as well.
And that's huge, especially for private companies, is to exude or show the confidence for like the culture of the company, the health of the company, and everything else. Because like a public company, they can, if they want to sign a contract with you, they can go and literally pull up your stock and be like, yeah, okay, yeah, their stock's not doing well. How healthy are they? With a private company, they have to kind of see it or take your word for it. And so when they get that glimpse in of the culture, that goes a long way, especially if they're going to make a long-term bet on you. And And so that's one thing that we've always kind of really tried to pride ourselves on is showcasing that. And if you look, and that's what we do with a lot of the podcasts, you know, we've got the, I'm trying to remember the name of it, and they were going to get mad that I can't remember it, but something like Nerding Out. And it's like 3 of the guys up in Canada that are, you know,
Geeking Out?
I think it's Nerding Out, maybe.
Nerding Out?
Something like that. Yeah. I could look it up. But, and they're talking on the more technical aspect of things. But that was one of the things that, you know, about a year ago at this time, when I kind of started jumping in and taking over some of the marketing stuff and working with DAF, how do we showcase our bench strength? We don't want just one person to be the face of anything. We want people to say, oh, that's Alex, that's Craig, that's Derek, that's Cooper. We want people to be known, and then they can see the talent that we have behind it. And so that's been kind of like another push for introducing the company is to, you know, provide that confidence layer to the end user.
Well, having the personal brand outside of the corporate brand is massive. Half the time, people will end up following like the CEO more than they follow the actual company, and not just the CEO because it's the CEO, but the CEO because generally that's the one person that's posting the most about the products that they have. You know what I mean? But in this case, I've seen you guys pop off everywhere. Like I'm seeing your CFO, your CTO, I'm seeing you, Daph, Melina, I'm seeing everybody posting about Cold War. And I think that that's great for the extra reach, because no matter what, whether you all have designated days or you all say, okay, we're all posting this within an hour of each other, if I refresh LinkedIn, it's going to pop to the top each and every single time. And so it's like you want that personal aspect to it as well. So
one of the things that you know, here in the last few weeks that we were talking about internally was sometimes when you start going down that road and you're doing content or anything else, it's good to go and refresh stuff that you've already put out, stuff that is like elementary that you've been doing for years.
Yes.
And that's one thing that like I noticed, like, man, this is being talked about, but we've been using this for 3 years. Why are we not, you know, and we may have put out a post 2 or 3 years ago that said we can do that, but all of a sudden, if it's back in the conversation, it's good to refresh.
100%. I don't think anyone should you should never post once and then just leave it like that. You can absolutely reuse your content. You can recycle it as many times as you need to, whether you're saying the exact same thing that you said 3 months ago or something you said 3 years ago. Essentially, your company is growing, your network is growing, and so you're going to have more people that are following you now that didn't get to see all that great content and how it performed. It may have performed very poorly, mind you, but now it may speak to a lot of the people that you have on board now. So absolutely reuse content, 100%.
Oh, yeah, and that's so we kind of did, and I like to tag in like the technical guys on this because me and Daph, when I first started, like kind of me and Daph were doing all our content posting. I was like, okay, well, I'll help Daph, and she's like, does this sound right? And I'm like, I don't know, I just started. Like, it sounds good to me. But we run it through everything, you know, to make sure what we're saying is accurate. Because there's a lot that comes out that's they're overpromising or inflating something that's not necessarily accurate of today. And we were guilty of that years ago, like 100%. And so it's been a huge focus to just really get back to like, okay, like, is everything we're putting out stuff we're doing today? And, you know, and we've been doing that for several years now. But we got bit by that several times.
I can imagine. I mean, that's the worst thing. Not necessarily the worst thing, but people have no problem calling you out. They'll be like, oh yeah, does your product actually do that? Okay, show me, prove it.
Yeah.
Well, let me take that back actually. So, and then you end up not necessarily getting caught in a lie, but you have to prove yourself. You have to prove your worth. So it's like, if you know that people are going to call you out from the get-go, you're like, okay, this is how we perform. If you want to know more, like, you almost don't want to give them too much information.
Yep. And you know, when we were first starting out, a lot of our content was probably more towards the disruptive side than it was on the kind of more refined professional side. And that's something that we've had to, you know, that we've really kind of reworked and redone over the last, you know, little while. Because you get to a point, like, disrupting is good until it's not. Like, young company, you can be disruptive and you can kind of create some, you know, because if they're talking about you, it means they're thinking about you kind of mentality. And at some point, if they're talking bad about you, it's not good.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, you can't come off too rough around the edges. So, because y'all work, you know, with small to large companies. So, like, do y'all go in and try to figure out, hey, how aggressive do you want to be? Or is it more...
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the client and like why they're taking us on. Because so we've had clients that come in and they say, listen, our end goal is we want to be sold by the end of the year. We want to be acquired. We want that money, and we want to go. Sounds good. Then there's also going to be people that want to drive sales. They want to drive growth. They want to drive brand awareness. So it all really depends. And I mean, but we have a team that handles that bit. So from the minute that you're signed on, I place you in the hands of our project manager, and she spearheads the strategy behind everything. Rachel has basically just been the one who will she understands the brand. She does a lot of the research, like the back end research. And then from there, she chooses the coordinator that she thinks would be best with your brand, depending on the clients that they've had in the past or the experience that they have, or whatever that looks like. And then together, they basically put their noggins together, and then they create a strategy based off of what it is that you want.
Yep. Very cool. Because y'all also y'all have some customers that are doing, or clients that are doing, or trying to do podcasting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is such a, like, it's funny how this is such a grown as a strategy.
Yeah.
Like, it is really cool. Like I like, they asked if I wanted to do a like more technical one. I was like, absolutely not. I just want to get on and just hang out and do something informal. Cause this is more my speed.
100%. And I mean, you do a lot of sales. I mean, you're director of sales and marketing. So at this point, it's like you're always in front of the client, and you're generally the person that they end up making the deals with. So it's like they get to watch this back and be like, oh, okay, this is the kind of guy that I'm expecting in my office next week. This is the kind of guy that I'm going to be trusting with my financials, essentially, for the products that they're taking off of you. So yeah, I mean, everyone that gets into podcasting now, I feel like it's like you mentioned earlier, everyone's getting into podcasting. It's about how you're it's about what you're talking about and how you're going about it, and not just having anybody on the podcast. But I mean, and I love this. I mean, when I saw this last year too, I was like, and this is a great setup.
Yeah, no, it's a great setup. And, you know, we've been fortunate to have some people that definitely want to jump on and just kind of like have a good time. Right.
It's hard to squeeze myself into your schedule here. Oof.
It's funny, you know, that, so like, you know, Daph and Milena and Aaron, they scheduled a call to go over topics to discuss. And I was like, I don't really work well with a script. I was like, we'll just go where it goes, and hopefully we'll have something to produce out of it. Right. And so the call lasted all of like 10 minutes. I think we spent most of the time talking about making sure everything was set up properly. So hopefully we actually have video and audio.
Oh, that would be great. If not, I've just been listening to myself speak this entire time.
Well, you heard me talk too.
I think we're okay.
I mean, it says recording on both, so.
Well, you're usually the one that sets us up for the rest of them, no? Debatable.
Yeah, we'll say that. So, okay. So what's on the agenda over the next couple of weeks? Because you're traveling, and then we're going to kind of start wrapping this up. So tell us, you know, what's Midnight Marketing? What's the big goals, or what are you doing over the next little while?
Next little while, I've got another 3 days in town, fly out to ATCE, set up our big bad boy booth, bring this guy with me somehow. Don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'll do it. And then I head back home for 2 weeks, and then I'm back out here for 2 weeks. And then I disappear for a little bit again. And then 2025, you're all going to be sick of me. I'm going to be here a lot more than I'm going to be back home.
I think you need to buy a twin for old Schmeez here. Just leave one here in Houston or something.
I mean, listen, I gotta just to show everybody how deteriorated he is. I hope that you can see this. He's full on. He's coming apart at the seams here. Bless him. It's just his head. I don't know if you can see this here, but part of him is still alive for the sole reason that I spent the majority of OTC with him on my lap like you would a child, and putting nail glue into his seams, hoping to keep him together. So if he's still there, I'd like to say thank you to Target Nail Glue. You did me a solid.
Yeah, I think it's He might be wanting to retire soon.
I mean, listen, I went to the exact same site where we got him because if I'm gonna get another Schmeez, it has to be the exact same one, and he sold out. He sold out. I bought probably the only one and the last one.
Well, maybe you started a trend and everybody started buying aliens.
Maybe. That would be really unfortunate. I do need another Schmeez. If you have another Schmeez, I will pay you top dollar or I will take you out for drinks, whichever one comes first. But please stop taking my Schmeez. I can't afford to lose him again.
That's been, honestly, that's been probably one of the biggest things that has drawn attention when I ran into at events and stuff is everybody's like, okay, who's with the alien? I always get asked that. I'm like, oh, I'll introduce you. Or, okay, what's the deal with the alien type stuff? And I think it's just absolutely hilarious.
He was a storytelling ploy, and now he is my son. I almost lost him at an event, and I didn't tell my boss this. Tim, I'm so sorry. He's still here, so I didn't tell you. And I had put him down during dinner and awards at an event, and I turn around, and because it was outside in a tent, I turn around, and he's gone. And I start panicking. I'm like, oh, God. I'm not going to lie. I did shed a very, very small tear because I did think I was going to lose my job for a second. I'm like, if I don't come back with the alien, there's no point in me keeping my job. Yeah. And finally, he just like slipped through the cracks of the tent. It was just lying on the grass. But you just see me running around for 20 minutes. I think you were like, okay, I'm going to leave now. And I'm like, okay, bye. I need to go. I need to find the alien. You're like, did you lose it? I'm like, I've lost my son. My son is missing. Yeah,
that would have been pretty disastrous.
No, but we found him in the end. He's safe and sound. He needs a carry case.
Well, cool. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to finish our cocktails. You've got a busy schedule ahead. Obviously, a lot of travel, all the good stuff. You're going to go explore New Orleans.
Yes, sir.
And then I guess back for another little while. What are you doing when you come back?
I have a potential client shoot, another golf game, networking.
Potential client shoot, as in?
No. Content shoot.
Okay.
I have to remember that those are completely different things in this industry. I learned that the hard way. And then potential lunch and learn. Maybe hosting it, may not be, TBD. And there you go.
Man, wow. Yeah. It's shaping up to be a end of a busy year for you, and 25 is looking pretty good. So we will be seeing you often and a lot, I am sure. So
have no choice. Can't
appreciate you coming on. Thanks again. Thanks, everybody.